Timbre. Vocal timbre. The human voice has a unique musical source. It has the ability to combine words with a musical tone. Words can be easily remembered through singing, and they are emphasized through emotions. Singing continues to be most widespread and familiar way of making music. Men and women have different singing voices. For female singers, there is the soprano and alto. The soprano is the highest female voice, while the alto is the lowest female voice. Among male singers, there is the tenor and bass. The tenor is the highest male voice, while the bass is the lowest male voice. Singing can also be done in different styles, such as following: solo and duet. Solo. Solo music can be performed even by a single person. If there is only one singer or one instrumentalist performing the melody, then you call that a solo. A singer who accompanies himself with a guitar or a piano is a soloist. A pianist playing instrumental music in a hotel lobby is an example of soloist. Another example is Paul McCartney performing Yesterday. A soloist can also mean a singer accompanied by other instrumentalists. Although there are other performers, only one, the singer, is singing the melody. A lot of modern music has been performed by soloists like Ed Sheeran and Michael Jackson. Duet. A duet pertains to two singers or instrumentalists performing the main melody. Although duets can be accompanied by other instruments, these do not perform the melody and therefore are not the main focus of the music. An example of a duet is Timon and Pumbaa singing Hakuna Matata from Disney's Lion King. Two singers are performing the melody. Trio. A trio is created if three members are performing the melody. In a vocal ensemble, it could be three singers singing a cappella or accompanied by instruments. An example of a vocal trio is Destiny's Child, an all-girl singing group. Another example is Ben and Ben, a singing and guitar playing Filipino duo backed by a rock band. In classical music, it can include any combinations of instruments such as three violins, violin trio, a piano flute violin trio, or a brass trio consisting of a horn, trumpet, and trombone. In any case, the melody is played by the three instruments simultaneously or one after the other. In Goldberg Variations by Johann Sebastian Bach, the trio is comprised of a violin, a viola, an instrument similar in appearance to a violin but slightly bigger, and a cello. Here is Goldberg Variations by Johann Sebastian Bach. Oftentimes, music is played by a bigger group of people comprised of different instruments or singers of different combinations. A large ensemble can have more than four members, and in some cases, there can be up to 100. Orchestras, rock bands, jazz bands, and large choirs are all examples of large ensembles. Instrumental ensembles. Music can be played by a single person, a solo performer, or a huge group like an orchestra. An orchestra specifically can have as many as 100 instrumentalists. What are the different kinds of instruments that can be found in a big musical ensemble like an orchestra? An orchestra is an instrumental ensemble that is comprised of different kinds of instruments, each from different instrument families. Instrument families are a group of instruments that share similar characteristics. Instrumental families classify orchestral instruments based on how they make a sound. There are four families, namely strings. Strings are played with bows or plucked using the fingers. The bowed instruments of the string family have bodies that are made of wood and strings that are made of metal or animal gut. To play these bowed instruments, the finger of one hand presses notes on the fingerboard, while the other hand rubs the hairs of the bow over the strings. The friction between the strings and the bow makes the sound. Violin. The violin often plays the melody in an orchestral piece. It rests on the player's shoulder. Viola. The viola is bigger and has a warmer timbre compared to the violin. It is also played similarly to a violin. Cello. The cello, among the contrabass, provides the bass in the string family. In playing the cello, the player sits on a chair and rests the cello on the floor between his or her knees. Contrabass. The contrabass is the lowest sounding string instrument and provides the main bass line. The instrument is huge, so the player has to stand behind it or sit on a high stool to play it. Woodwinds are wooden or metal instruments shaped like tubes, with an opening on one end and a mouthpiece on the other. These instruments are played by blowing air into the mouthpiece and changing the pitch of the sound by pressing on metal caps called keys that cover holes on the side of the instrument. Flute. The flute is made of metal and often plays the melody. Oboe. The oboe is made of wood and has a mellower sound than the flute. Clarinet. The clarinet is also made of wood. It has a wide range. Bassoon. The bassoon has the lowest sound in the woodwind family. Brass. Brass instruments are made of metal and can be described as really long pipes twisted into various shapes. Like the woodwinds, they have mouthpieces and openings on either end. To change pitch, the player also pushes on metal buttons, but instead of opening and closing holes on the instrument, the buttons open and close valves inside the instrument. Brass instruments are significantly bigger and louder than woodwinds. Trumpet. The trumpet has a very bright timbre, so it's also often used to play melodies. Trombone. The trombone uses a slide instead of valves to play notes. It has a mellower sound than the trumpet. French horn. The French horn has a very warm sound. The player uses both hands to play the instrument. The left hand presses the valves while the right is placed inside the bell to change the sound. Tuba. The tuba is the lowest sounding brass instrument. It can play the bass notes. Percussion. These instruments are made of wood or metal. The instruments produce sound when they are hit with sticks or mallets, or when they are shaken. These instruments provide rhythm for the orchestra. Percussion instruments can be pitched or non-pitched. Pitch percussion instruments can produce different notes while non-pitch percussion cannot. Triangle, non-pitched. The triangle is played using a metal stick. Glockenspiel. The glockenspiel looks similar to xylophone, but it has metal keys instead of wooden keys. It is played with mallets. Thank you for listening. Happy learning!